Thank you. Are you folks fired up? I know you are, because we're here fired up for freedom and for liberty. And where does our freedom and liberty come from? Does it come from government? No. By God, isn't it? You're darn right it is. And if it is, by what right do the politicians and the bureaucrats who take an oath of office violate that oath and take away our freedom and liberty? And by what right, if they do it, do we sit down and not fight back? Ladies and gentlemen, I love being with you because I know the spirit of liberty is strong and I know that you fight back. And I'm here to introduce somebody else who is fighting back, who in a very impressive fashion, as an 18-year-old college student, with all the things that college students have on their minds, said, I'm being called. Many are called. Not all, that's right. Yes, ma'am, not all answered. This young man answered. Born in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Ypsilanti, Michigan. He now lives in Bowling Green, Ohio. All right? And Daniel Johnson started People Against the NDAA. Pandaa. And we're running not just the NDAA, but the entire effort to create the law. This is a battlefield and impose the laws of war and take away our constitutional protections. Dan has worked tirelessly. He's gone all over the country. He's raised a tremendous organization, and he has more members fighting against a particular piece of legislation known as the NDAA than any other group. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, with a great big speed of Michigan powwow, welcome the Wunderkind, Daniel Johnson.
Against the NDAA. So I've got, this is a really in-depth issue and they gave me 25 minutes. I fought for that 25 minutes. They gave me 25 minutes to talk about this issue, so unfortunately I might go a little bit fast. You can find out more about this presentation. We got a table, I'll be more than happy to take questions afterward. And we've got this whole presentation online for you guys to check it out for yourselves. So, my long downward spiral into the world of politics began back in fall 2011. I never really wanted to go into politics, probably being many and ticks being blood-sucking creatures. My opinion hasn't changed. So, never really wanted to go into politics. This hit me in the face. As a homeschool kid, I grew up studying the rise and fall of the Third Reich and the rise and fall of Kyoto, Japan. And what we did to the 120,000 Japanese Americans here on United States soil when we detained them without charge and without a trial just for happening to be of a certain race. And I watched all that happen. I saw the NDAA. If you compare the NDAA of 2012 and the Patriot Act to the 1933 Reichstag Fire Decree, the decree for the protection of the people and state of the Third Reich, you will see, and you compare that to the Weimar Constitution, the original German Constitution, you will see the provisions that they violate are not similar. They are identical. We have the exact same laws today that 2 years before Nazi Germany invaded Poland, they had in their country. This is the NDAA for fiscal year 2012. So I want to go through just a little bit of a short video clip on this.
Earlier this week, the President signed the National Defense Authorization Act, a radical new claim of presidential power.
It gives the military the power to indefinitely detain American citizens, suspected, not convicted, of some sort of involvement or affiliation with terrorism.
A bill that allows U.S. citizens to be transported overseas to prisons and held there without charges filed. Senators John McCain and Carl Levin are looking to make America into a military state and give the president the power to be judge, jury, and executioner.
When President Obama signed the NDAA, sections of the bill were opposed by key members of his administration. Many civil liberties activists believe the law is unconstitutional.
What this bill does is it takes a wrecking ball to the United States Constitution.
It explicitly says that he has the authority to target American citizens because he believes they're bad people.
The government is claiming the power under the Afghanistan authorization for use of military force as a justification for entering American homes to grab people, indefinitely detain them, and not give them a charge in a trial.
Right.
individual, no matter who they are, if they pose a threat to the security of the United States of America, should not be allowed to continue that threat.
And when they say, I want my lawyer, you tell them, shut up. You're talking about this, you don't have one. You're the enemy from that.
There may be a number of people who cannot be prosecuted for past crimes. In some cases because evidence may be tainted, but who nonetheless pose a threat to the security of the United States.
There's one thing and one thing only that is protecting American citizens, and that's our Constitution.
Is a baseball stadium more important than liberty? Are liquor licenses more important than due process?
Please know what will come your way. Death, detention, prosecution.
It is time to stand, to peacefully bring about a revolution.
So we're going to go through a few things today. I don't like the podium. We're going to go through a few things today. What is it? How is it bad? Does the NDA undermine your constitutional rights? And finally, what can and should you do about it? So, the NDAA, or National Defense Authorization Act, is a bill passed every year by Congress. We're going on about 53 years now. This bill usually just funds the military, defense authorization. However, as it funded the military, it became a Trojan horse. It passed every single year. You could stick things in it. You wanted nobody to notice, and poof, you'd get them passed into law. This is exactly what happened with 2012 NDAA. Hidden inside the 565-page piece of legislation are sections 10.2.1 and 10.2.2. In a nutshell, they authorize the indefinite detention of American citizens without charge or trial and the application of the laws of war to U.S. soil, making America a battlefield. It passed 283 to 136 in the House and 93 to 7 in the Senate. Now, these are people who supposedly can't agree what color ink to write their letters with. And they just agreed on a piece of legislation that violates 14 provisions of the Constitution. So, let's go a little history. NDAA takes authority from the 2001 Authorization for Use of Military Force. Here's the language from the AUMF. In general, that the President is authorized to use all necessary and appropriate force against those nations, organizations, or persons he determines planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terrorist attacks that occurred on 9/11, or harbored such organizations or persons, nor prevent any future acts of international terrorism on U.S. soil. This is already dangerous. This was passed September 17th, 2001. This is already dangerous because you're handing the sole and exclusive power to determine who is a possible terrorist to one person, the President of the United States. However, the NDAA expands that authority. Section 10.2.1b2. A person who is a part of or substantially supporting Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, or associated forces engaged in hostilities against the United States or its coalition partners, including any person who has committed a belligerent act or directly supported such hostilities and aided such enemy forces. So who understood that? Yeah, I thought so. This is equivalent to driving down the road and seeing a speed limit sign that says, yes. So, the 2012 NDAA changes the current national security policy. It expands the targeting profile beyond the AUMF. Imagine the AUMF as a loaded gun pointed at every other country around the world. The NDAA does not change the gun. It does not change the caliber of the bullet. It points that gun at the United States and American citizens anywhere in the world. It changes the country being protected. We're adding coalition partners. Who knows who've been coalition partners with Iran before? Coalition partners change. If you supported Iran now and you don't support them then, does that make you a possible terrorist under this act? Or if you flip that, coalition partners change. And the most dangerous part, time frame. Involvement in the terrorist attacks of 9/11 no longer necessary. It moves from retribution to pre-crime. Who's seen the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise? Anybody? Awesome movie. I highly recommend watching it. In this movie, Tom Cruise plays a police officer in service of his government. His job is in the pre-crime division. His job is to arrest people before they commit a crime. So he sees these videotapes. This person's about to stab another person. This person's about to rob a store. He arrests them all. When he's arrested, for a crime he was not about to commit, he realizes none of those people were going to commit any crime. All of them were enemies of the government. This is pre-crime. Who's heard the term, we gotta stop the terrorists before they strike? Okay? That's pre-crime, and that's the NDAA. It goes from a policy of retribution for a past action to a policy for a war on terror. So, how is it bad? Terrorism is a method, and terror is an emotional reaction. If Congress passes a law one day that says you may no longer walk through doors forward, you must now walk through all doors sideways, who would follow that law? Why not? It's more efficient. You can fit two people through the exact same door. You can usually only fit one. You cannot legislate a method out of existence. Second, terror is an emotional reaction. If Congress goes further and passes a law banning sadness, America, we are entering the happy days. I can already see mainstream media talking and supporting this. But would it stop you from being sad? Why not? You cannot legislate an emotional reaction out of existence. So, what are the chances of being killed in a terrorist attack? You are more likely to be struck by lightning twice and live than die in a terrorist attack. You are 12 times more likely, or 18,000 times more likely to die from heart disease than in a terrorist attack. 12 times more likely to accidentally suffocate yourself in your sleep than die in a terrorist attack. You're 8 times more likely to be killed by a police officer as an innocent in the line of duty than a terrorist. So, this is the NDAA. 21 days after this was signed into law, a group of journalists and activists called the Freedom 7 filed suit, hedged via Obama. The Supreme Court has to decide whether or not to hear it in the next 5 days. The government, then they brought the suit in front of Judge Catherine Forrest. She starts oral hearings. She starts asking the government questions. She says, okay, so what's a belligerent act? We don't know. Okay, alright, let me give you an example. Someone writes a book, the rest of the book is blank, front cover of the book, they put, I support the political goals of Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Could that person be detained under the NDAA? Yes. We don't know. Okay, let me make this easy. Could any of these plaintiffs who just came in front of me saying they could be detained under the NDAA, be detained under the NDAA? Well, we'll have to check with the laws of war. We'll go check with the laws of war. They come back, we can't tell you. Over and over and over again, Southern District Court of New York asked questions over and over again, they refused to answer. She released this statement. The government was unable to define precisely what direct or substantial support means. Thus, an individual could run the risk of substantially or directly supporting an associated force without even being aware that he or she was doing so. This measure has a chilling impact on First Amendment rights. Within 24 hours, the Obama administration appealed. Within 6 hours, they got a stay on her injunction, putting the NDA back into effect. The appeals court overturned her injunction on the idea that the plaintiffs had not been indefinitely detained yet, so they couldn't challenge it, which is a little bit of a catch-22. If you're indefinitely detained, how do you get into a court of law? So, that currently on its way to the Supreme Court. So, this is the fun part. Since a belligerent or terrorist act is not defined in the NDAA, sometimes governments pass laws that are somewhat vague, right? So Congress will pass a law on environmental regulation, leave it up to the EPA to decide how exactly they want to enforce that. Well, okay, let's look at some government agencies to define it for us. Who's a terrorist? People or groups who demand identity privacy. Don't want to give your social security number to Best Buy? Terrorist. Insist on paying with cash. Have missing hand or fingers. Terrorist. Make racist or extreme religious statements. Condoning violence or appearing to condone violence. What's the problem with appearance? Has nothing to do with intent. If I say I'm going to flip this podium at the audience, obviously I'm not going to flip the podium at the audience. Probably not even strong enough to do so. But somebody walking out there who heard me, it could seem like I was appearing to condone violence. Nothing to do with intent. My favorite one. Make suspicious comments regarding anti-U.S., radical theology, and vague or cryptic warnings that suggest or appear to endorse the use of violence in support of a cause. Wow. Okay, yeah, let's start throwing out. What's an anti-U.S. comment? Throw some out.
Party. In the war.
All kinds, and it depends on who you're talking to. In fact, the closest one I ever got, about a week ago, I was speaking at the University of Nevada, Reno, and a guy shouts out, "The United States is the wrong shape!" Okay, alright, I get that. What's a radical theology? Is it Christianity? Is it Islam? Is it Buddhism? Is it Shintoism? Is it is a Taoism. It depends on who you're talking to. And what's the problem with the vague or cryptic warning? It's vague or cryptic. You're not supposed to get it. Okay. This is a report called the Homeland Security Start Report, released 31 days after 2012 NDA was signed into law. Look who it defines as the next wave of terrorists. Groups or individuals who are nationalistic, as opposed to universal international orientation. Anti-global, suspicious of centralized federal authority, reverent of individual liberty, and believe in conspiracy theories that involve grave threat to national sovereignty and our personal liberties. Who fits that description? Alright! I know I'm in the right place. Single issue. Groups or individuals, Panda, that obsessively focus on Panda, narrowly specific or narrowly defined Panda issues. Because we focus on one issue, the Department of Homeland Security classifies my organization as a possible terrorist group. Warning signs for police. People likely to commit violence speak against the government. Wow. They blame the government for their perceived problems. So number one, all your problems are perceived. They're on your head. And if you blame the government for your non-existent problems, you're considered a possible terrorist. Unusual or extreme actions that catch the attention of others. Active online to show extreme views / connect with others. What does / mean? / means for. Everyone has sent email? 12 people. Anyone ever sent email? Alright, good. So, pop quiz. This has got to be quick. Shout out some names of agencies you think put this together. Hint, it's not the bottom one, that'd be too easy.
IRS.
Nope.
NSA.
Nope. Okay. Lots of good guesses. Let me tell you the answer. 2,000 American police chiefs got together at the White House to discuss terror and put together this list. Challengers from the sidelines, understanding America's violent far right, combating terrorism center where? West Point. Anti-federalists are the next wave of terrorists. This is not a term you hear often. There's not an anti-federalist coffee party tomorrow. There's not an anti-federalist book club next week. Anti-federalist specifically refers to the group of people who wrote the Bill of Rights and ensured it was in your Constitution. So when they're going after anti-federalists, who are they targeting? Us. I wish I had time to go through these two young men. Both of them were accused of terrorism for a Facebook comment and a song, and they, one of them is supposed to serve 15 years. One of them is acquitted of serving 20. So, if anyone happens to fit in any of these categories, here's the punishment: Section 1022A1, custody pending disposition of the law of war. In general, the armed forces of the United States shall hold the person described in paragraph 2, which we just read, captured in the course of hostilities authorized by the AUMF, that's the war on terror, in military custody, pending disposition of the law of war. This is not your local sheriff. This is not your local police department. This is the military coming into your home and taking you to a military prison like Guantanamo Bay. Do we really want to give the president that kind of power? No! Do we really want to give the president that kind of power? No! Absolutely not. So, does the NDA undermine your constitutional rights? See, under the law of war, now this is very interesting. 2 points. For one, law of war has been applied widespread on American soil twice for the NDAA. First, Proclamation 94. Who knows Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus? Yeah. Okay, most people haven't read the order. Proclamation 94. The military shall have jurisdiction over any person found disloyal to the northern government. Lincoln detained 15,000 northerners and executed most of them. The Supreme Court later said that was a horrible idea. The Constitution protects all, both rulers and men. It's shield protection in war and in peace. And any idea that its provisions could be suspended in times of great exigencies of government leads directly to tyranny and despotism. This is from the Supreme Court. So, the second time we didn't listen. 1942, February 21st. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signs Executive Order 9066. This order says nothing about detention. It never mentions the word imprisonment. What it says is the military shall be given control over certain areas of the country. They detained 120,000 Japanese Americans under that. Let's bring it closer to home. Big Bear Lake, California, last year. Who knows the name Christopher Dorner? Okay, a couple of you remember. He's the former LA cop who was accused of killing some other LA cops, right? The biggest manhunt in American history. The military took control of that manhunt. Big Bear Lake, California was locked down. If you had a home, it was searched whether you wanted it to or not. Every single home was searched. When they went after him, they knew exactly where he was. He was in a cabin. They could have gone after him with tear gas. Any kind of non-violent means, what did they do? They burned him to a crisp. So, the second part. The laws of war were created in the Geneva Conventions. They have two categories, combatants and non-combatants. Non-combatants, civilians; combatants, people who take up arms and have a flag of a country or flag of a group. Both these categories prohibited torture. Both these categories prohibited execution of people in your custody. Bush Justice Department didn't like that very much after 9/11. Created a new category out of thin air. Unlawful enemy combatant. All the punishments of the Geneva Conventions, that many of the protections. They used this category to torture the alleged 9/11 hijackers in Guantanamo Bay. Then, the Council on Foreign Relations advised Congress, you should probably change the name of that category, because you can only take combatants. You can take non-combatants. And they changed the name to unprivileged enemy belligerent, which the Obama administration used to execute American citizens abroad. 4 of them, they're considering a 5th. Why do you think the term belligerent is in the NDAA? Because they're targeting people like you. A category created to torture and used to execute. Now applies to every single one of us in this room. So, I need to go through very quickly, I'm running out of time. Detention of the law of war without trial. Trial in front of a military court if you get one at all. Transfer to trial by an alternative court having lawful jurisdiction. Who claims lawful jurisdiction over you? Military commissions, the United Nations. Transfer the custody or control of the person's country of origin. Any other foreign country or any other foreign entity. We can give you to whoever we want, whenever we want, however we want. We'll do it however we feel like doing it. I'd rather be detained by the United States military than any other military because Pakistani, Chinese, Iranian, I don't speak their language, at least I speak the language of the United States. So, by the way, quick flash, this is the short list of provisions violated by the DA. Okay, so how do we stop this? Pandaa launched January 2012. When we launched, we grew a little bit, and then in 2013 we launched Operation Homeland Liberty. This operation you saw the video for. This was 50 states, 365 days, stop the idea at the state level. That was last year. And as all master chess players talk about, losing first, we lost. Big time. 18 pieces of state legislation. 8 of them went through committee. The closest we got was 33-32 on the Colorado House floor to ban the NDAA. We moved to the local level, take back. Then we started winning. Albany, New York, 11-0. First city in the nation. And then Webster, Massachusetts, Oxford, Massachusetts, Emmett, Idaho, Gem County, Idaho, 4 days ago, Middleton, Idaho, 5 cities, 1 county now. The Take Back campaign spreading all across the country. We have 60 to 70 cities that are currently considering banning the NDAA from their jurisdiction right now. Now, a lot of people will give you problems. Not many of them will say, here's a suggested solution, here's a suggested solution. 3 phases. Number 1, pass Restoring Constitutional Governance Resolution. This resolution bans the NDAA and the laws of war that back it up in any city or any county. And secondly, get the local police involved. What does this mean? If you're a local police officer, you're taking oath to the Constitution. Many of them don't follow that. We changed the police policy so that if you allow the laws of war in your city or in your county to be used, you will be immediately fired from your position as a police officer. Now, thirdly, we set up a Citizens Watch. The Citizens Watch because there are groups people would never trust, politicians and law enforcement. Why? They believe they have more power than you. You should keep an eye on them. And this is where the people come in. Eventually the people have to take care of the issue. Eventually it's up to the people. Now, this legislation will not change the way your elected officials do anything unless the people back it up. Unless the people do something about it. Just like, see these carrots? Just like a constitutional convention. Wrong problem, wrong solution. Is the problem the Constitution, or is the problem us and the problem our representatives not following it? Same exact thing here. We set up a Citizens Watch to keep an eye on the local government. Now, I'm giving you the information. It's up to you to decide what to do with it. There's a table back there where you can put your name down and you can get a flyer. Each one of those flyers has a link to a packet online. You don't join Pandaa. We don't do that. There's a link to a packet online you can take to your local government, and you can say, we've had enough of the NDAA. Here is where we draw our line in the sand. Because I tell you what, here's why I do this. The next generation did not deserve to live in a world like we have today. When I look in the eyes of a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, someone who has not lost their innocence yet, someone who thinks Disney and imagination, the world's an awesome place, I look in their eyes and I want to be able to tell them, you are free. I cannot do that in America, and I will not stop fighting, and I urge you to not stop fighting until we can do that in the United States of America, and so every single child who grows up, we can point to them and say, you are free. Thank you very much.